computing, not so hard to do with quantum computing. And so they're kind of positioning themselves that there's going to be this moment in the next couple of years where quantum computers are going to be able to hack Bitcoin and Ethereum and all these non-quantum resistant distributed ledgers. So they're basically saying we're going to be ready for that when that time comes. Its primary use when it was first conceived, it was for machine-to-machine communication, and we're gonna go through kind of the characteristics of why that is. But essentially, in this, I'm sure you've all heard of IoT, Internet of Things. It basically means that these dumb objects that we have lying around us will be embedded with logic and knowledge in the coming years. So right now, I'm looking at my refrigerator, and my refrigerator just holds my groceries. But in the future, it might tell me when something's going to be stale, or when something's going to go bad, when I need to buy something. It might even automatically buy the products for me. So it'll be connected to Amazon, and then it will just send it, and then it will be sent by a drone, and then it'll just appear in my refrigerator when I get home. And there has to be a communication protocol for these different systems to interact with each other. Okay, so that's where the interesting part of IOTA comes in, is that IOTA wants to be that communication protocol and that transaction protocol. So when the drone comes into the house to drop off the food, it could actually receive payment from the refrigerator. I know that's a really trippy concept to wrap your head around, but here's a better one. Let's say that, and there's a lot of rumor to suggest that this is actually in process right now. But let's talk about, autonomous vehicles like the Tesla. So the Tesla, it can drive itself now, right, to some degree, and in a couple years that might the ability for a car to drive itself might increase. So let's say that you're I don't know, you're at home, you've got a meeting in 2 hours, and your car realizes that, this trip that you're about to take is 4 hours, and it only has enough fuel for 3 hours. It might go and fuel itself up. And because it would have IOTA in the car, it could go to a smart station that also has IOTA, and it could actually pay using the IOTA coin with the IOTA protocol. So it's a way for machines to exchange value between each other in a very fluid, natural way. It also can send data between people. So Bitcoin, Ethereum, these are all platforms that have a token that you can send and receive and use to transact. And this is also something that the IOTA token is looking to do. And it is a protocol and a platform. So it allows organizations and other companies to build products and services on top of it. That's, I think, one of the things that's very exciting about IOTA is that, we've seen Ethereum. Ethereum's been, I think it's lower now, but it was hovering at $100 billion market cap, and it's created an ecosystem for people to build on top of. And I think that's one of the promises of IOTA, not only that this entire machine-to-machine economy will be built on top of it, or could be built on top of it, but products and services and new companies will use IOTA's technology to support their own initiatives, which I think is always a big multiplier when we talk about the EPSD value framework. So I kind of talked about it briefly. Maybe if we have a minute, I'll just play this video at the end. I think it's a great kind of showcase of what IOTA is. But imagine that all these different tools or products are connected, and they can transact with each other, and they can send value or data or whatever they want to send. They could use IOTA as that protocol. And then again, as I said before, people can also use it. So people could pay machines, people could pay people, machines could pay machines. Another really cool initiative, it's one of the first initiatives that they're rolling out with a lot of different partners or pilot partners. I know there was some rift because Microsoft is a pilot partner for the data place for the data marketplace, but not necessarily for the IOTA Foundation. There was some riff there, but the data marketplace is essentially a place where, there's billions of pieces of data transacting between people and machines, and it's kind of lopsided. Either it's not being stored in a way that everyone can access it, or it's being stored and then you don't have the ability to profit off your own data. It's basically taken from you and sold without your permission or consent. The data marketplace is a very cool initiative that it actually collects all of the data from all of these different sensors. So if you've got 10 sensors in your home, you could opt in. It's your choice. You could opt into the marketplace and sell your data on an open marketplace for people who want the data. And then at a larger scale, a company like Bosch that we're going to look at later, if they've got hundreds of billions of sensors, they could be selling that data or offering that data or even buying data in this marketplace, which I think is a really cool use case. So what makes IOTA special? So IOTA might at face value look like a lot of other cryptocurrencies, but it's distinct in a couple very, very specific ways. So there's a zero cost transaction fee. So it actually costs nothing to a user to send IOTAs between the network. So for comparison, for Bitcoin, it can cost $6 to $10 per transaction, which is crazy. Even Ethereum, I think it's 50 cents, $1. It's significantly less, but still there. Most blockchains require a fee to send value through the network. And the difference between $10 and 50 cents is pretty drastic, I'd agree. But where this really comes into play, if you remember, we talked about this being a machine-to-machine protocol. So if you're Bosch, and Bosch has 1 billion IoT devices in its network that are all using a protocol, they can't use something like Ethereum, even if it's 2 cents per transaction. If there are billions of devices sending billions of transactions between one another every single day, that adds up very quickly, right? So even if it's just a cent per transaction, a cent times 1 billion, right? That's a lot per day, let's say, in terms of daily volume. So what makes IOTA so unique is that it costs nothing. So when I send you 50 IOTAs, you receive 50 IOTAs. You don't receive 50 IOTAs minus the cost to send to the network to send the fee. The only quote-unquote cost is that your computer has to, anytime you send a transaction, you have to validate 2 others. So there's a little bit of electricity required, and there's a little bit of computational power required. But that's very different than spending 50 cents per transaction. It's pretty negligible in that regard. So that makes it really scalable for very scalable for technology that is incorporating machines, and it's also really exciting for consumers. If I'm using Bitcoin, I can't. I don't want to spend $10 just on the transaction. It's a crazy proposition. So there's no blockchain like we talked about. So that also pretty much makes it unique. And it scales as the network grows. So it's like the Borg, right? I think I keep using that, and it's not probably the best analogy. But as more people join the network, it creates more nodes. So this is in direct opposition to Ethereum. So if you saw with CryptoKitties, the Ethereum network becomes more congested the more people that are participating on it. Without it, it's actually the opposite. The more people participate in it, the faster it grows. Because when Bosch creates 1 billion IoT devices that are all running on IOTA, it's actually creating more nodes to support more transactions. So it's this weird kind of dynamic, if that makes sense. And its primary use is for machine-to-machine communication. However, it is being used for non-machine to machine communication, which is something that not a lot of projects can claim that they're doing. And I think the other thing that makes it really special is that, when you look at, I couldn't find the full list, but when you look at the partners that IOTA is working with, these are some big name brands. The someone on the board of Volkswagen just became, I don't know if this might be inaccurate. I don't know if they've officially announced a partnership, but some people from the board of Volkswagen just joined the IOTA Foundation. So whether they're hinting at it explicitly or implicitly, there's some degree of cooperation there. Bosch has been very forward that they're working closely with the IOTA Foundation, and they're a big player of IoT. I think Bosch is actually one of the largest sensor producers or generators in the world. I'm not entirely sure, but they're a massive organization, and the Bosch venture capital arm invested an undisclosed amount, but a pretty significant amount into the IOTA Foundation and the tokens. So they're also bought in. And there's a couple other very big names as well. So what I really like about IOTA, I think it's an incredible team relative to a lot of the other teams out there in the space. They've proven time and time again that they're very professional, even if they're quite blunt, which I kind of appreciate. I think you have to be blunt in this space. The IOTA Foundation, based in Germany, is a legal entity for supporting growth. So, a lot of these projects, they'll do an ICO, they'll raise $4 million, and it's just a company. Or, they'll raise an ICO, and then they don't really have a structure for supporting growth in the future. The IOTA Foundation is hiring like crazy. They're planning on 10xing their staff in the next couple months. So this foundation will have 100 people, maybe more, maybe 200, maybe 300, working around the clock to build out relationships, partnerships, the technology, and there's a funding mechanism to support growth. Partnerships with large companies we're seeing, Bosch, Fujitsu, Volkswagen. The data marketplace is partnered with lots of different companies, which is very exciting. It's a very active vocal community. It's one of the largest, people don't know, it's actually one of the largest cryptocurrency communities. I think that the Reddit community just broke 100,000. And I think the Slack community, or the Discord now, has 50,000 people in it, which is a crazy number. It's a very diligent team, and what I really like about it is that Tangle is the next generation take on the concept of the blockchain. So if Bitcoin was Bitcoin 1.0, if Ethereum was Bitcoin 2.0, I would wager to say that the Tangle is Bitcoin 3.0. And you're starting to see as you do research, and I've been taking the past couple days to find the next batch of projects to send out in the next couple weeks. Some of them haven't even ICO'd yet. People are starting to catch on that there are better ledgers than just the blockchain. There are these distributed ledgers that support growth in a better way. So IOTA was really the first mover on this